So we're beginning by simply noticing the sense of support beneath you, the sense of space around you, noticing sensations that you feel in your body, noticing where your attention is drawn. And then noticing the natural flow of your breath. And you may find that either inhalation or exhalation is longer or easier. So if you notice a difference between the phases of your breath, turn your attention to the phase of breath that feels a little shorter. So you can invite that shorter phase of breath to lengthen and match the longer. And then begin to extend both phases of your breath. If you're comfortable with the practice of Ujjayi Pranayama, you can begin to bring your Ujjayi breath in here. Perhaps now finding an inhalation that is a comfortable count, maybe a count of 5 or 6. Might be a little shorter, might be a little longer. But find a reasonable steady count. Inhaling, let's say a count of 5. Exhaling for a count of 5. Settling into that breath. And maybe with your next breath cycle, you could extend the count. So you could either add 1 to your count, or you could maybe slow the count down. Keep that steady pace, but slow your count of 5. And with your next breath cycle, if it feels reasonable to you, begin to extend the pauses between the breaths. So if you're working with a count of 5, we'll inhale for a count of 5 and pause for a count of 5. And then exhale for a count of 5 and pause for a count of 5. So now each phase of the breath is extended, and each phase of the breath is equal in length and equal in importance. Beautiful. Let's complete one more cycle of this breath. Inhaling and pausing. Exhaling and pausing. And then smooth the pauses out. Let it return back to an even flow of in-breath and out-breath, still a little longer than you would breathe out of habit, but maybe with a little more energy and intention to your breath. And somewhere in the next couple of breaths, you'll make your way down onto your back, and you can use your cushion or your rolled towel or your meditation pillow or whatever it happens to be underneath your shoulder blades and maybe along the length of your spine. So we're looking here for a lift in our upper back, a little external rotation in our shoulders. Maybe you can let the backs of your hands drop down towards the floor. Maybe you can let the back of your head drop down towards the floor. And we'll work here for a couple of breaths, kind of melting into this shape. And after you've taken a couple of slow, steady breaths here, getting used to being in the back bend, we'll add some movement in our arms. So your inhalation, you'll slide the backs of your hands along the floor and reach your arms up overhead. And with your exhalation, you can draw your elbows back down, maybe bringing them back in line with your shoulders. As you inhale, you'll slide your arms up overhead. And as you exhale, you'll slide your arms back down, making a couple more rounds of this movement, matching the rhythm of your breath. Inhaling to reach up. Exhaling to draw your arms back down. Take your arms out to the side, extending your arms long. Hands at about the height of your shoulders. We'll take a couple of moments here, creating some space and length and stretch from your breastbone out to your fingertips. And eventually you'll allow your arms to come down by your sides. Help yourself off your support. And we'll now slide our support underneath our sacrum. So you can lay back down, coming into essentially supported bridge pose. So you'll lay down with the support under your sacrum. You might even take it slightly to the tailbone side so that we can encourage what I would call posterior tipping in the pelvis. That is the top rim of your pelvis kind of dropping towards your back body, letting your tail lengthen up towards your knees. We'll take a couple of breaths here with a nice long low back. And then you can extend your right leg out straight. So you'll see here that you've got essentially extension in your right hip. You're almost in a lunge position, but you happen to be supported against the floor. So you can allow your psoas and hip flexors to have a little more release. This might be enough stretch. If this feels like enough, stay here. If you'd like a little more, you'll pull your left knee in, maybe grab the back of your left thigh and start to slide your left knee towards your left shoulder as you keep your right heel grounded. You can work with your breath here too to get a little more release in your hip. If you think about bringing your lower back ribs towards the floor, dropping your front ribs in and breathing into your back ribs, we get a little more stretch in your right hip. While we're here, it might feel nice to circle around in the left ankle. So you can circle one way, circle the other, point and flex your toes, give them a wiggle. Eventually, we'll slide left foot back down to the mat. You can slide your right knee back in and maybe just pause here for a moment. It's nice to be symmetrical after being asymmetrical. So notice if you feel any differences between the two sides. And then we'll move into the same stretch on the other side, allowing your left leg to come out straight. Dropping that heel down, dropping your lower front ribs. Maybe this already feels like enough stretch in the front of your left hip. You could stay here. It's a little bit deeper to bring your right knee in. And maybe start to draw that right knee towards your right shoulder. Once we find this position, it can feel really good to find some movement in your right foot. You can circle it around one way, circle it around the other. We're staying extended and grounded in the left leg. We can really work with our breath here, taking breath into lower back ribs, dropping the front ribs, getting a little more stretch in our left hip. Eventually, we'll slide left foot back in. You can release your right foot back down to the mat. Let's take a moment to press into our feet and lift our hips up and off the support. So elevate your hips. You can slide your support out to the side now. Bring your spine back down to the floor and then hug your knees in towards your chest. So hugging in, arms can extend out to the side here. And we'll use the strength of our core to circle our knees around. This is just a little massage for your low back as well as a wake-up call for your lower abdomen. Circle around one way, circle around the other. Beautiful work. All right, let's hug our knees in a little bit more. Maybe your hips even lift up and off the mat. And as you exhale, take a twist to the right. Try to hover your knees off the floor and keep your left shoulder down. So you're actively twisting to ground your left shoulder. You're hugging your core in to hover your knees just over to the right side, about halfway to the mat. You can inhale, come back through the center, shift your hips to the other side. And we'll dip our knees about halfway to the floor on the left. We're actively twisting to keep right shoulder heavy. Nice. You can inhale, shift back to the center, come back to the right. We'll just rock our knees side to side now. Exhale to twist, dipping knees halfway to the floor on the right. Inhale to center, exhale to twist, dipping knees halfway to the floor on the left. Go one more time to each side. We'll come back to the center. Then you can let your arms come down beside you if you like. If you want a little support for your low back, maybe tuck your thumbs or even your wrists underneath your seat. We'll come here, hug the belly in, reach up through the soles of our feet. Pull your belly towards your spine, pull your lower front ribs to the top rim of your pelvis. So you're really strong in your core. And then to reach up with the left foot and start to float the right foot down towards the floor. So really pay attention to what's going on in your pelvis and your low back. If you start to feel your pelvis tip, if you start to feel your low back lift away from the floor, that's as low as you lower your right leg. We can inhale, bring that foot back up. Exhale, lower the left. Same thing, we're trying to keep the pelvis completely stable here. So if you notice any tipping or rocking, if you notice your low back lifting, that's as far as you go. You can inhale, bring your leg back up. Let's go back to the right side. Once more, lowering, floating it down. Maybe we can hold here for a breath, hovering the right foot above the floor. You'll inhale, bring your foot back up to the center, and then lower your left foot, hover. Inhale, bring your foot back up. One more variation, little scissor kick. So we'll cross our ankles and slowly lower, really working to stay stable in the pelvis. So if you start to feel your low back lifting, that's as low as you go. Bring them back up. Let's do two more like that. Slowly lowering. Slowly lifting. Last one. Slowly lower. Slowly lift. One more breath. Reach your feet up to the ceiling. You can bend your knees now. Hug them into your chest. Draw some circles. Rock side to side. Rock in and out. Whatever feels good in your low back. Eventually, we'll let our feet drop back down to the floor. Let's take them wide, about mat width apart. Think about your thigh bones dropping to the back of your hip sockets. We'll hug belly in. Keep a little curve in your lumbar spine. In fact, you might even kind of lift your sacrum and drop your tail, and then lengthen out through your knees as you lift your hips. We'll just keep a little flexion in our hips. Sometimes in this pose, we tend to jam our hips towards the ceiling. So let's let that go. A little flexion in the hips, the sides of the pelvis lifting. If it feels good, you can press a little more into one foot, press a little more into the other. Nice, and eventually we'll come all the way back down onto our backs. You can hug your knees into your chest, rock up, and find your way to all fours. So from all fours, let's take the right foot forward. Let's take your right foot in line with your right hip. We'll hug our inner thighs in. And as you inhale, rock down into a lunge. And as you exhale, rock back. So check in with your left knee. If it needs a little padding, you can double up your mat or maybe use your cushion that you were using to support your hips. We'll just take a couple of breaths, rocking in and out here. And then you can find our way fully into the lunge. Try bringing your arms up and overhead. So we'll reach fingertips up towards the ceiling. Maybe then reach back. Heart can lift. Gaze can lift. Let's take a couple of breaths here. It might even feel good to bend one elbow and support the base of your skull. And encourage the curve in your neck. Encourage it long. Let's inhale, lift up and up the pose. We'll slide our hips back and switch legs. So the left foot comes forward, right leg is back. And we'll take a couple of breaths rocking in and out of the lunge. So inhaling to lunge, exhaling to rock back. Inhaling to lunge, exhaling to rock back. Eventually we'll come into the lunge and hold here. Inner thighs are hugging to the midline so we stay square. Belly's hugging in. One or both arms can reach up. We can extend into the back bend here and maybe even support your head. So you can bend an elbow, find the base of your skull, encourage your neck long, and reach up through your elbow. Let's inhale, lift up and out of that back bend. We'll rock out of the lunge. Step your left foot back now, so we're on our knees. We can circle our arms moving toward camel pose. We're hugging inner thighs in, belly's hugging in. You can inhale, circle your right arm up and back, and then circle your left arm up and back. Almost like you're doing a backstroke here. Circling in your shoulders, hugging inner thighs and hugging belly in. And eventually, let's just find a version of Ustrasana that feels good. Maybe hands on your back, maybe hands on your thighs, maybe hands on your feet. Maybe you're just hovering. I'm just gonna hover. It feels best with my wrist at the moment. And to come out of this one, we'll activate our legs. Inner thighs hug in, belly zips up, come up to kneeling. Settle your hips back towards your heels and then slowly walk your way out into an active and extended child's pose. So we're pressing into fingertips, we're reaching hips back, getting some length in our side body, getting heavy in our hips and strong in our arms. Beautiful. From here, you can rock forward to hands and knees. Flex your feet, tuck your toes, and press your way back to downward facing dog. You're on your own for this one. So find your down dog. And then maybe check in with the placement of your hands and feet. Hands are about the width of your shoulders, feet about the width of your hips. Check in with the orientation of your pelvis. Whether your back is arching excessively, or whether you're tucking your tail. Try to find relatively neutral. For most people, for many bodies in this pose, the tendency is for tightness in the back of our legs to pull our pelvis into a tuck. So you might need to bend your knees, untuck your tail, broaden your sit bones, get that sense of thigh bones moving to the back of the hip sockets again. Maybe it even feels like your feet are widening on your mat. And then work your legs back towards straight. It's okay if they don't straighten all the way. Let's think about some length in the back of our legs with that sense of lifting and broadening in the back of the pelvis. Beautiful. 2 more breaths here. Checking in now with your jaw and with your neck and with your shoulders. If there's any tension there, let it go. Maybe your head turns side to side a couple of times. You can even take your chin a little closer towards your chest and lengthen the back of your neck. When it feels like time, you'll start to walk your way forward, rolling heel to toe as you walk to a standing forward fold. And again, we'll check in here. We want the pelvis spilling around the top of our thighs. We want hips in line with ankles. This sense of almost widening feet away from each other on the mat. And once you get here, you can swing your spine side to side. You could turn your head side to side. You can try walking it out, bending one knee and then the other. Let's give it a few more breaths in Uttanasana. With your next inhalation, bend your knees a little more. We'll come all the way up to standing, hug your belly in. You can take your arms all the way up and overhead. And when you exhale, make your way into a chair pose. So think about taking our hips back, heart forward. We've got our feet probably about the width of our hips. So you want feet, knees, and hips all to track each other. If your knees are collapsing in, you'll think about lifting your inner arch. If your knees are tracking out, think about lifting your outer arch. And either way, we're taking sitting bones back, staying broad, lifting belly, lifting ribs, and then extending from low back up and through your fingertips. Nice. As you exhale, fold back to Uttanasana. And we'll inhale, lift halfway up. You can exhale, plant your hands, take your feet back to your plank pose, and then lower all the way to your belly. When you lift, lifting into Cobra pose, maybe you can lift your hands too. So we'll ground the tops of our feet, lift the fronts of our shoulders and face your skull, lift your hands. You can exhale. Next inhalation, hugging your elbow in. Come up into Bhujangasana with a little weight in your hands. We'll exhale and lower. You can walk your hands back now. And maybe you're lifting again to Bhujangasana. Maybe this time, though, you're coming to upward facing dog. So find your back bend. We'll hold the back bend for a couple of breaths. Check in with the front of your shoulders. Oh my goodness, you guys look amazing. Fronts of your shoulders should be drawing back, and they are. Heart should be drawing forward, and it is. Let's take one more breath here. You can exhale and lower. As you inhale, come back to hands and knees. As you exhale, take it back to downward facing dog. From your downward dog, you'll inhale and lift your right foot straight up and back. And as you do, let your left heel get really heavy. So drop your left heel as much as you can. Notice what just happened in your right hip. If it lifted over your left, try to turn your hips squarely towards the mat for just one more breath. Yeah, nice adjustment. So now we'll stack our hips. You can take your right hip over your left. You can bend your knee. Start to draw your right heel towards your left hip and maybe even draw some big circles in your right hip. Circling one way, circling the other. As you exhale, you can square your hips. And let's take right foot to the outside of right hand. You can drop your left knee down to the mat. And let's start to forward fold here to the inside of the right thigh. So we'll hinge forward. Maybe elbows start to drop down towards the floor. If you have your support, you can place your forearms on the support. This could be your pose. If you want to go a little deeper, you could consider tucking your left toes and lifting that left knee off the floor as you bow. Let's take one more exhalation here. As you inhale, walk back up into the palms of your hands. And let's take this up into a high lunge. So we can balance now, maybe hands on the front thigh. You could reach your arms up, one or both arms up overhead, reaching out through your left heel. And now with an exhalation, take a twist. Scissor your inner thighs in, turn to the right. Arms will extend out to the side. Nice. Inhale back to the center. Exhale, turn. One more time, inhale back to the center. Exhale, turn. You could hold here if you want to go a little deeper. Right hand slides down your left leg as you reach your left arm up towards the ceiling. You can inhale, unwind your twist. Exhale, hands reach back down to the mat and take it back through Vinyasa. So you can step back to plank pose. Lower to your chaturanga, shoulders, elbows, hips, all the same height. Inhale through upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. This is your chance to kind of reset. So catch your breath here. Make any little adjustments you need to find balance and symmetry in your posture. And then your next inhalation will lift your left foot. So you can take your left foot up and back. And now check in. Sometimes when we lift that left foot, it takes the hip with it. So let's think about, for at least the next couple of breaths, squaring your hips towards the floor, letting your left heel get a little heavy, maybe your right heel, pardon me, gets a little heavy. Your left thigh lifts a little higher. And now you can stack your hips. Rolling left hip over your right, you can bend your knee. Start to pull that heel in towards your right hip. And you can even draw some circles in your left hip if that feels good to you. Circling one way and then circling the other. Beautiful. With the exhalation, you'll square your hips and touch your left foot down now to the outside of your left hand. We'll lower right knee down to the mat. Pardon me, let our hips slide slightly back and hinge forward here. Deepening the left hip crease as we move forearms down towards the floor. And this could be a good opportunity to grab your support. If your elbows don't touch down and you like a little lift, you can always put your support underneath your forearms. This could be your pose. If you'd like to come a little deeper, you can consider lifting the right knee. So let's take 2 more breaths here. And we'll start to make our way up into the high lunge. So you can inhale up onto your fingertips, catch your balance, and then stand all the way up, reaching through right heel. We're scissoring inner thighs towards each other. Inhale to reach your arms overhead. And as you exhale, twist left, arms will extend out away from each other. Inhale to unwind. Exhale to twist. Inhale to unwind. Exhale to twist. You could hold here. Maybe slide your left hand down your right leg as you reach your right arm up and back. With your inhalation, you can unbind, unwind, exhale, hands reach for the floor, flow through your vinyasa. Take it back to chaturanga, upward facing dog, and downward facing dog. Nice. Downward facing dog is your reset. If down dog does not feel like a rest, you can always take child's pose or dolphin pose or half dog, coming down to your knees but keeping your torso extended. Try one more breath here. And then bend your knees and look forward. Move your feet towards your hands. Find a half forward fold. Find a full forward fold. Once more, come to your half forward fold. Bend your knees a little bit so you can really tip your sitting bones up. Make sure you've got contact with your hands on something. Maybe you're on your cushion or your prop. Maybe your hands are on your shins. Maybe you can reach the floor. But we're going to think about activating our legs here. Drawing thigh bones back, activating along the length of our spine, and then hinging forward with integrity in your legs and your spine. You can check in with your feet. Notice if you're rolling to the inner edge or the outer edge. Notice if you're gripping the mat with your toes. Try to let that go. Really working in our standing forward fold here. And if you haven't already, firm your quads. If you have, firm them more. So we're going to think about lifting kneecaps without jamming the backs of our knees, really activating your quadriceps, and that should help you get a little more length in your hamstrings. We'll take one more exhalation here. And then inhale, make your way all the way up to standing. Let's take our arms up overhead. Exhale, shift your weight into your right foot. We'll take left toes back behind us. So think about now hinging your pelvis around the top of your right thigh. We're headed to third warrior. You can press your left foot back, hinge forward, trying to keep hips relatively level. Your hands can be wherever you like. They could be at your heart, they could reach out, they could be back by your sides, but really work on this, leveling out your hips. Perfectly reasonable for this knee to be slightly bent. We'll keep reaching through the foot, reaching through the crown, and then bend your right knee a little. And then straighten. And bend. And straighten. And bend. And straighten. Come back to standing, but float your left foot. The left foot is still floating as you come back to mountain pose. Now, left foot is still floating. Try to forward fold here. Nice. Stand back up. Oh, stand into mountain pose. Catch your breath. Catch your balance. Let's work the stability of the other hip. So reach your right toes back. Left knee is a little bent, reaching out to the crown of your head, and we spill the pelvis around the head of the left femur. So spilling pelvis forward. Reaching out to the right foot, reaching out to the crown, checking in. We want to be as level as we can in our hips. And we bend the left knee a little. And straighten. Bend. Oh, and straighten. And one more, bend. And straighten. Return to standing, but float your right foot. Maybe an inch or so off the mat. Keeping your right foot floating, see if you can hinge and forward fold. Well, inhale, stand that back out, stand on both feet. Return to mountain pose. Nice work. Bend your knees back to Utkatasana. So hips back, heart forward, belly lifting, sitting bones are spreading as you take your arms up. Exhale and fold to Uttanasana. You'll inhale, lift halfway up. Plant your hands, step or float, make your way through Vinyasa. Back to Chaturanga, upward facing dog. Exhale to downward facing dog. Nice. Inhale and lift your right foot straight up and back at first. And then stacking right hip over left, you can bend your knee. If you like the back bend, this is a great opportunity to flip it over. You could go to Wild Thing right here. So maybe you pivot a left hand and foot step it right over. Beautiful. I'm glad I have some takers for Wild Thing. I love that pose. All right, if you're in the Wild Thing, flip it back over. Take a breath. When you exhale, bring your right knee to the floor underneath your right hip. So we're coming to side plank variation. Bringing knee under hip. You'll angle your shin out to the side. Right hand under your right shoulder. You can take your foot, left foot to the floor in line with your right knee. So let's hold here for a moment, trying to stack one shoulder over the other, hugging belly in. Maybe you can stack one hip over the other. And then see about shifting the balance here. Maybe you could float your left foot. This could be your pose. You could even bend your left knee, reach back, grab your ankle, press your foot into your hand and back bend here. If you've got a hold of your foot, inhale to re-extend. Exhale, hand and knee can come back to the mat. And then press back to your downward facing dog. Nice, so a moment or two in down dog, reestablishing your symmetry, reestablishing the evenness of your breath. And when you're ready, left foot will lift with an inhalation, taking your foot up and back. And then you can stack your hips, bend your knee, flip it into Wild Thing if that feels like fun. Nice. If you happen to be in the Wild Thing, flip it back over. Come back to your three-legged down dog, and we'll make our way into Vasisthasana variation on the other side. So left knee comes under your left hip, left hand is just a little forward of your shoulder, right foot in line, you can reach your right arm up. When you're ready, try floating your right foot. Nice. If you'd like to give it a little back bend, you can bend your knee, grab your ankle. Press your foot into your hand like you're drawing a bow. Find a back bend. From here, you can inhale, re-extend arm and leg. Exhale, hand and knee come back down to the mat. Pressing back to downward facing dog. And take a couple of breaths. At the end of your next exhalation, bend your knees, look forward, and move your feet to your hands, coming back to a half forward fold. Find a full forward fold. And then make your way back to chair with your feet the width of your hips. So we'll take thigh bones back, we'll take sit bones back, we'll root down through our feet, lift belly, lift arms, work here. Maybe you even want to bend your elbows. Take your hands towards the base of your skull and lengthen your neck as you lift your elbows. Find a little more length. The spinal extension. Notice what's happening in your hips. I just found myself as I come into the spinal extension, I ended up squeezing and jerking my thigh bones forward. I'm going to think about taking my hips back, staying broad as a continued extension. Eventually, I'll inhale, reach my arms up. And then exhale, release, arms down by your sides. All right, so let's shift our weight now into the right foot. Bend your knees a little bit. We'll pick up the left foot. Foot flexes, external rotation. Coming into a figure four, I sometimes call this one temple dancer pose. Hips reach back, heart reaches forward. Hips reach back, heart reaches forward. Maybe hands reach forward. And we continue this sense of broadening sit bones, lifting belly, creating length and space between ribs and pelvis. You can inhale, stand this back up. Let's move to the other side, rooting down through your left foot. Knees can bend a little bit. You'll pick up your right, external rotation. And hips can reach back, heart can reach forward, hips reach back, heart reaches forward. Settling into the temple dancer pose, arms could reach forward, hands could be at your heart. Nice, stand it back up. We'll come back to stand on the right foot. Left toes come back behind you. We're making our way back to third warrior. So hugging belly in, hinging forward. You could reach your hands out in front of you if you like. Hands could stay at your heart if you like. So this time, intensifying our squats a little bit. As you exhale, right knee bends, left knee crosses to the outside of the right as you squat. You'll inhale, re-extend. Exhale, hug in, cross your left knee behind. Inhale, re-extend, keep going. Try one more. Inhale, you can return to standing, float your left foot. Exhale, plant both feet back down on the mat. Nice work. Oh, big inhalation, big exhalation. Other side, Jiva squats. Let's take the right toes back. Square your hips. Virabhadrasana 3, placing your arms where they feel best to you. And now the squat crosses right knee behind the left. And you inhale to re-extend. And exhale, cross your right knee behind the left. Inhale to re-extend. Keep going, just a few more. Last one. Exhale, tuck your right knee back. Inhale, re-extend, third warrior. We'll stand it up. Try floating your right foot just for a breath. And exhale, both feet back down on the mat. Lovely. Grounding down through your right foot once more. Let's bend our knees. Left ankle crosses over. Hips back, heart forward, hips back, heart forward. Maybe hands now. Reach for the floor. So we're still balancing on our right foot. Your hands can reach for the floor, but your hips are reaching back. So as you reach your hands down, try not to straighten your right leg. So we're really still looking for this broadening across our sitting bones and the strong external rotation in our left leg. Even in the forward fold, lovely. When you inhale, you can stand this back up. Switch legs, we'll cross right ankle over the left knee. Hips back, heart forward, hips back, heart forward. Reaching hands for the mat. You can inhale, stand this all the way back up. Coming back to stand in your mountain pose. Let's take our feet wide. Heels can be slightly in, toes slightly out. We're headed for wide-footed Malasana. So see if you can keep your weight back in your heels. If your heels start to lift, you might want to slide a little support underneath them. We'll start to take hips back and down. And upper arms or even shoulders come between your knees. See if you can get a little space across your collarbones. Might feel good to sway a little side to side here. Might feel good to put your palms together. If you like, you can put the backs of your hands together and get a little wrist stretch. we're going to eventually come to sitting. So some of us will just put our hands behind us and sit down. If anyone's feeling spry, you can take your hands to the mat, lift your hips, pop up into a crow pose, and then float back through Vinyasa. Oh, I'm so glad to see I've got some takers for crow. You guys are awesome. I wish I could join you. This is one of my favorites. All right. For those who want to just sit down, we'll take hands behind us. Sit down. Release our legs. You can extend them out straight. Maybe rock toes side to side a few times. Shake them out. From here, let's take our legs out into about a 90-degree angle. So this is Upavishta Konasana, wide angle, seated forward fold. Put our legs about here. And then just check in. I'm noticing that I'm way back on my tailbone. I'm kind of rounded here. So I need to rock forward, maybe walk my sit bones back a little bit. Maybe work some rotation in my thighs to point my toes up. So I have a neutral curve in my low back. If you find yourself rocked back and it's not possible to tip your pelvis forward, think about maybe elevating your hips or bending your knees or both. You could also put your hands behind you and press a little bit. If you are able to get a neutral curve in your spine and be able to sit upright here, you might start to hinge it forward. Pelvis begins to spill forward over the top of the thighs. Hands can come out in front of you if you like. You can rest on your elbows or your forearms if you like. If anyone wants to work a little core strength, you can reach out and try to hook your big toes with index finger and middle finger of each hand and hover. So let's take one more exhalation here. As you inhale, lift part way up. And then we'll walk over to the right. See if you can bring your right elbow maybe to the floor on the inside of your right knee. And this is a little bit deep. So if this is too much, you can always bring your forearm to your thigh instead. We've got a rotation of our ribs around to the left. Maybe elbow is reaching for the floor. If you want to go a little farther, maybe you can reach your right foot with your right hand. If you want to go a little farther, left arm can come up and over, and the weight of your left arm creates some space in your left ribs. You might even be able to take your left hand towards the little toe side of your right foot. Nice. Let's be here for a while. Maybe we can slow our breath down a little bit. What happens if you take an extra moment to inhale? Take an extra moment to exhale. Your next inhalation will lift you part way up and out of this pose. Exhale, you're going to walk your hands back in front of you. And then make your way around to the left. And again, maybe it's available to bring your left elbow to the floor on the inside of your left knee. That can be a little deep. If it's a little too much, you could always rest your forearm on your thigh. If this feels okay, left elbow to the floor. Ribs are rotating around to the right. You might even reach towards the base of your big toe with your left hand. You might reach your right arm up and over. Let the weight of your right arm help open your right side ribs. Maybe you can even grab the little toe side of your left foot with your right hand. And again, we'll slow our breath down. Next inhalation, lift yourself part way out of the pose. Exhale, you can walk back to center. We'll inhale, work our way back to sitting upright. Hands come behind your knees, draw your legs towards each other. You can shake them out. All right, so placing the soles of your feet now flat on the floor. Hug your belly in. Fingers could hook behind your knees, arms could reach out, moving into Malasana. Make sure you're centered on your mat. We'll pick up our feet. This could be your pose. Maybe legs come towards straight. Maybe arms come parallel to legs. Now with an exhalation, lower to half boat. So we'll hug belly in, round your spine. Now come and hover on your sacrum. Really suck in your belly in, hollow body. Now as you exhale, hug in. As you inhale, reach. Exhale, hug in. Inhale, reach. Exhale, hug in. Inhale, reach. Keep going. Two more. And release your feet to the mat. Release your arms out by your sides. Walk your feet to the width of your mat and drop your knees in towards each other. Let's take a few deep breaths here. You could leave your arms out to your sides, or if it feels good, palms could come to your belly and you could feel your belly rise and fall with your breath. Then walk your feet together and let your knees drop out to the side. And again, take a few deep belly breaths. Finally, you can reach down with your hands. Use your hands on the outsides of your legs to draw your knees towards each other. Let's walk our feet in hip width apart. Maybe just about close enough that you can touch your heel bones with the tips of your middle fingers, lifting up into Malasana, bridge pose. We're hugging inner thighs in, we're hugging belly in, but maybe we can get a little sense of release in our hips so we're not jamming our thigh bones forward or tucking our tailbones. Keeping this little bit of extension in the lumbar spine, and you can lift yourself up. As you lift, your knees are moving away from you and the sides of your pelvis are lifting up. You can even use your hamstrings a little bit here, pulling with your hamstrings to lift yourself up. Check in. If your knees popped out to the side, hug them in. Press into your feet. Maybe you rock from one shoulder to the other. Maybe you take the backs of your hands to the mat. Maybe you can interlace behind your back. You can even make a little shelf with your hands and lift higher, coming up into a supported version of this pose. Wherever you happen to be, we'll be here for 3 slow, steady breaths, maybe even the slowest breaths you've done yet in our practice. And at the end of your next exhalation, you can let your hips float back down to the mat. Once they touch down, it might feel good to pick up your feet, hug your knees, and once more draw some circles. And let's cross right ankle to the outside of left knee. Left foot is up and off the floor. You're hugging your left knee in. So we'll figure 4 stretch again here, using some core. And now you can take your left hand to your right ankle, hold it in place. Right arm will come out to the side, palm up, and we'll take this into a twist. Legs are now moving over to the left. So you'll end up on the outside of your left leg, the sole of your right foot with your right knee pointing towards the ceiling. You can hold your foot in place, maybe walk your ribs over, maybe turn your head to the right. So we've got a little hip stretch, a little waist stretch, a little quadratus lumborum stretch, that muscle that connects the top of your pelvis to your spine. With an inhalation, you can roll back to your back, uncross your legs, and change the cross. Left ankle crosses over right knee, and we'll just work here for a moment. Figure 4 with a little bit of core work. Pressing right knee into left shin, pressing the left knee away from you. And then we turn this into a twist. So right hand can find left ankle. We'll roll our legs over to the right. They'll come onto the outer seam of your right leg, sole of your left foot, left knee points to the ceiling. And maybe you shuffle your shoulders and ribs slightly to the right. You can turn your head to the left. We'll take a few deep breaths here. As you inhale, you can roll back to your back, uncross your legs, and then just notice if there are any movements that your body is craving before you find Shavasana. If you're ready to go straight into Shavasana, you can go straight in. If you're like a happy baby pose or another back bend or another twist or an inversion, this is your opportunity. So if there are any movements you'd like to make the movements that would complete your practice now. And then start to settle into the posture that you can relax in. The posture that will help you to integrate all of the movements you've made, all of the changes you've made. And when you get there, once more find your breath. So settling back into your breath, feeling the length of the inhalations and the exhalations, encouraging the pauses in the breath. And then finally letting go of the control of your breath too. And notice where your attention is drawn. There may be sensations that are interesting. There may be thoughts that arise. There may be places in your breath that are fascinating. There may be emotions that come up. So let your attention touch lightly everywhere it's drawn without settling too long in any one place. Notice, receive, let it go. Light attention. And now gently bringing attention back to your breath. Watching the flow in and out through your nostrils. When the time feels right, once more expanding your breath. Maybe we return to an inhalation of 5 and a pause of 5, an exhalation of 5 and a pause of 5. And once more, surrendering the control of your breath, but allowing each breath now to expand as it feels good to you. Fuller inhalations, more complete exhalations. And the expansion of your breath reawakens the energy that animates your body. There's this sense of expanding vitality from the center of your body all the way out to the tips of your fingers and your toes. When you feel that, you might feel a desire to move. Honor the desire to move. You can wiggle fingers, wiggle toes, start to move your hands and feet, start to move your arms and legs. Just find the movements that feel really good to you. There's no right or wrong. And eventually you can let your movements carry you over to one side. When you're ready to come up to sitting, you'll use the strength of your arms. Help yourself up. Settle into a comfortable seat. Give yourself just one more chance to check in. So feeling the support beneath you, feeling the space around you, feeling the quality of your breath now, the nature of your attention now, the sensations you feel in your body now. When you're ready, you'll turn your palms out to the side and inhale, bring your arms up and overhead. As you exhale, hands can come down the midline of your body to your heart. We'll pause in Anjali Mudra, one palm against the other, thumbs at your breastbone. Gesture of greeting and of gratitude and of respect. And we'll close our practice together with the sound of Om. You are welcome to join me from wherever you are. You're welcome to sit and listen if that feels better to you. If you'd like to join, we'll inhale together and begin. Thank you all so much for sharing your practice this afternoon. Have a marvelous rest of your day. Namaste. Well done.